So they don't want to miss the disconnecting part. So now I'm recording. So yes, please, Miss Ba, what do you need to ask?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. First of all, we are a couple of students from Quran and Sunnah or fiqh. So
Mm-hmm.
during our bachelor degree, most of the subject and 99%, 90% is subject were in Arabic. So we are
Mm-hmm.
not much expert in assignment. Say, for example, is a APA format or Chicago format. We had only 4 subjects that
Mm-hmm.
were in APA format. So APA format and Chicago format is totally different. So now, from my perspective, and as I heard from someone, we are not expert in Chicago format.
Okay.
This is the first one. So is it possible to show us the Chicago format, how to citation, how to search or anything else? And second thing is that how to submit in the Google Classroom and
Oh,
our activities. And third point is, can you make it clear our first activities as you give us the area of selection? Is it will be the just summary or with the or research gap or with citation or only
okay.
the summary of the
Mm.
area? That's all. Sorry for more question.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of questions to answer. Let me see if I open up my. Okay. All right. Check. Yeah. Okay, first of all, with regard to the Chicago manual, actually, for your information, this is under referencing. We call it referencing. Referencing is not only limited to referencing book or articles. So you may also from time to time referring to internet sources, encyclopedias, reports, what else? So you can name it lah, many items lah. Yeah. So there are different ways of citing. There are different ways of citing or putting the references in your academic work. If I were to tell you, so this is how you write according to the Chicago manual. I will not be able to tell them all. You need to get a manual to help you to know. Okay, so using manual is the most easiest, okay, the most handy way. But then it takes time because you need to type it one by one. But as guidelines, you may go to CPS website and check for the resources or downloads, if I'm not mistaken. And then you will find IIUM thesis manual. Okay, and then you will find also references, and then you will find Chicago manual. So you can follow that manually. So you look at, under, for example, article, this is how you do the citation, record, this is how to do the citation, so on and so forth. So you have to do it manually lah. Okay, this is one of the way simplest because you have it at your disposal. Okay, this is one. That if you are doing it manually. But if you want to do it in a more sophisticated way, quickly and using certain apps or application, there are two types of applications, referencing applications used. I told you before, Zotero and Mendeley. But I will teach you Zotero because Zotero can be applied to footnotes. Mendeley cannot be applied to footnotes. Mendeley can only do APA citation. So that's why I'm teaching you um, Zotero.
Our is
Now,
a manual
what?
Chicago.
Come
That's why it's
again?
Jotero.
Come again?
I mean, our format is Chicago manual. That's why Jotero is
Yes.
related with. Okay.
Yes, yes. So I will use Zotero because the zero can adopt Chicago manual and footnote style. Okay, this one we will include in our learning, teaching and learning. So, when you use Zotero, you need not to remember whether the author first, the date second, the date of the book published, the title of the book italic, comma, and then the place of publication and the name of the publisher, comma, and the year of publication, and finally page. If you do manually, then you have to do this on your own, right? You have to type manually. There's a lot of typing to be done. But if you use Zotero, at first you will have to type this in the application. And then this application will store what you have inserted. So let's say in your thesis, you need to use that citation again and again. The second time, the third time you are using it, you need not to retype. You just click and then it will appear automatically in your footnotes. And also it will arrange for you. Say for example, when you do referencing, okay, say for example, the first reference is Hasina Ibrahim exploring religious pluralism. So you do type, so on and so forth. And then the second references is Adiba Abdul Rahim, modern religious thought. Okay, so you type everything. And then the third references is Haslina again. So if you type manually, then you will type, okay, EBIT. Now they don't use EBIT. You will type Haslina, comma, page 10, for example. Yeah. But if you use Zotero, you go to the uh, go to the item where my book is listed, and then you just click, and the system will automatically arrange for you. So say for example, the fourth references is again Haslina. So you see the system will automatically, when you click, the system will automatically put EBIT page, because it is the system understand that you are referring the previous reference, so you need not to repeat, say for example Haslina, EBIT and page. Yeah? So the system will arrange for you. The same goes, say for example, while you are typing, after you have typing for several pages, and then you want to add another references, right, in between. Say for example, you have 5 references in the first page, and then you want to put another references in the first page. If you do it manually, then you have to retype. Because say for example, just now Haslina, Adiba, Haslina, and then you have Haslina again, right? You do manually, but then you have another reference. Say for example, reference number 4. You don't want Haslina. You have another material. You put, say for example, Fadila. And then when you put Fadila, then it will change Haslina. If you do it manually, then you have to retype Haslina, the next references, because previously previously you do it manually, it is divided by another reference, right? But now you have another reference, you have to write or cite differently, so you have to do it manually. What I'm trying to say, uh, you need to do this manually. But if you use the Zotero, you know what happened? The system, when you click, the system will automatically uh, refresh for you. So you click, say for example, Fadila, and then Fadila enter, and then you click refresh, and the system will arrange for your references. So this is good, because I'm not talking about one page, you see. I'm talking about the whole thesis. Say for example, you submit to your supervisor one chapter consists of, say, 30 pages, and then your supervisor said, okay, you add here, you add here, you need to have more literatures. You can just imagine the bulk of works that you have to face if you are doing all this manually, because the references will definitely change the moment you add in between. But if you use Zotero, then you will not have to think about how the footnotes will appear, because the system will take care for you. All right. So you know what
Means
I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Jyotira will work for me.
Yeah, it will help you because it's a form of application. Yeah, that's why I said now you don't worry so much about the referencing because we are so updated. We have the application. Even though I know when I teach Zotero last semester, some students were so stubborn, they still want to use the manual way. The manual way is very slow, and you see the other disadvantage of using manual is because you will not have the store with you. Say for example, after you finish your thesis and you are writing another article, you want to use the same material, you have to retype again. And all these materials are scattered. Are you going to take all the books in front of you and type it again, or you copy paste from your thesis? That's a lot of hassle. But if you use Zotero, everything is in your laptop, in your desktop. You open up the apps, you just click and it will be there. So you have library in your computer, in your desktop, in your laptop. All right. So, inshallah, we will discuss this, Miss Ba. You don't worry. Yeah, we will make your life easy, inshallah. Okay, this is one issue. But of course, for those who do not study Zotero, you can help them by telling them go to CPS website. They have the format for manual. They have the manual and the format for Arabic and English thesis. You need not to worry. I would like to advise you, please get yourself familiar with the CPS website because there's a lot of information on the website. Like for example, if you're facing some issues with regard to the policies or with regard to the flow chart, I mean what to do after this, what to do after that, you go to CPS website and then you will know what forms to fill in, who to meet, yeah, which is the responsible agencies, yeah. Or you go to Deputy Dean Responsible Research website. We have also provided you the, say for example, you want to submit your thesis, what you should do. So we give you the ABC, what to do if you want to submit your thesis, what to do if you want to nominate your supervisor, what to do if you want to defend your proposal. So everything is explained in the website. All right. Ms. Ba, I forgot the last question. What was the last question about?
Last question was about our first assignment is a 5 marks
Mm,
for area selection. So it will be
mm.
just summary or just that's
Okay, yeah, I think I said that from the last meeting. You have to do readings, or you have to, maybe some of you by now, you have already certain area that you want to venture. If you remember, I said go and read because what is the deadline for that assignment?
29.
29. So you have another week. So by 29, you have to submit to me the title. But then don't limit yourself only to one title because I want to see, I mean, give as many alternatives as possible. Because if you give one title, then say for example, if I think that title is not suitable or not workable, I will get stuck. I will not know how to advise you. Yeah, but if you, let's say you give, say for example, five titles, then I will be able to compare between the titles. I will be able to advise you the most appropriate, the most doable title. All right. Okay, so your task now in between these 2 weeks, first, I hope you try to decide what area you want to do. If you are Usuluddin and comparative religion student, you have these two broader area, either Usuluddin or comparative religion. Decide whether you want to dig into Usuluddin affairs or comparative religion. Yeah, and then say for example you have Zoom into comparative religion. Are you going to go into particular religion? Say you are interested in Christianity, so you have decided that you want to write on Christianity. And then you, of course, to write about Christianity is very big, right? So what particular area that you want to talk? You want to talk about their doctrines? You want to talk about their denomination or secretarian? You want to talk about the movements? or you want to talk about issues oriented, say for example issues with regard to the belief in Jesus Christ among the contemporary Christian sectarians in Malaysia. So there is one option. Yeah. And maybe second option you want to talk about the meaning of salvation according to the contemporary Protestant churches and Catholic churches. To the, so we have two titles. Or the third one you want to say, okay, a survey on the um, a survey on the practicing Christian, for example, a survey on the say for example on the followers of Methodist school in Kuala Lumpur, Methodist church in Kuala Lumpur on the concept of salvation in Malaysia. If you're doing survey, or if you want to make a comparison, so you see, you give this a number of title, then I will ask you, okay, do you think you can do this? Do you have the tools to do this? You see, so that's will be my approach. Okay. So when you give me on the 29 during the weekend while you are relaxing, well, not relaxing, while you are reading some more, I will be sitting down and looking at your titles and recommending you. Okay, so if you give me reasonable titles to work on, you will get easily 5 marks. Because in the last semester, when I adopted these methods, some of my students only give one title, or some of them give play around only with the words of the title. Like actually one title to another, there is no difference. Just a matter of you change the words. So how could I give mark? So I know that this person is not serious, or this person has not done enough good readings. He has not been exploring that much. Yeah. Given the 3 weeks, last week, this week, and next week, 3 weeks, I think it's good, reasonable enough for you to find a better title for you to start working on. All right, Ms. Ba, is that clear? All right.
Yes,
Okay. So
clear.
you have all the
But,
Doctor,
time to do reading
but
tau. Jangan malas-malas.
when
Doctor,
you
how
want
many
to,
maximum
Uh,
title?
maximum title to 5 is reasonable lah. 5
Five,
is,
okay.
is reasonable lah. If you want to give 10 also can.
but when,
5 is
as
reasonable.
someone need to write in the specific area, so it is difficult to search in another four title, because say for example I'm interested in the Quranic Mojiza, but it's a very difficult to search in another four title, because I'm interested to my thesis and my PhD in this area. So should I select in another fourth area, or
You can, don't limit yourself from the very beginning.
uh,
Keep
uh,
the option open. So, I mean, this
I
is
see.
explorative exercise for you.
Okay, okay.
Explorative exercise for you. So keep yourself open mind, yeah. Because sometimes when we are so limits by particular topic or title, we will not be able to appreciate the the opportunity to learn. And you know what? The other good thing about making yourself open is to exercise from the very beginning that as a researcher, you have to have this state of openness. Openness in terms of sharing of idea, knowledge, transferring knowledge, or listening to people opinion. Because if you are so regimented, it will not make you a good researcher. A good researcher is someone who is open, can accept criticism. Can accept criticism to his research. This is important, especially on the day of the defense, proposal defense, and the day of viva if you're doing your PhD. Because in most cases, when you are so rigid on the day of the viva, you will think that the committee faculty giving you unnecessary opinion, or in the viva you will be very defensive because you don't want to
Meeting. Hello.
It's net problem.
Anybody home?
I think there is a bad connection with Madam.
It's not me only, right?
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam.
I'm so sorry. I lost you. I don't know why.
It's
Because
okay.
suddenly the internet is disconnected. This
Yes.
morning I'm supposed to have a webinar, right? Can you see me or not?
No.
You
No.
cannot,
No.
but you can hear me. Can you?
Yes.
Sounds
Alright.
okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's why this morning, at first I wanted to organize a webinar, but then I decided not to have it because I fear that this will happen. It happened now to my computer, to my yeah, I don't know why suddenly. Let me try to reconnect. Now it is there. I'm using my handphone now. I'm going to shift to my laptop again. Okay. Where were we just now? I know you cannot see me, but I cannot help. Just wait for my computer to start again. Where were we just now? About what now? What? Where did I stop just now in my this?
Title. More title. Viva.
Yeah. Yes. So if you have enough title, then we will be able to. In the defense, Viva defense, then you will be able to appreciate the view of your examiner. Okay, so that what I want to say about. Right. Let me enter once again. Now the teacher is omitted from the class. Allahu Akbar. All right. This class is being recorded. Okay, I'm back now.
You are mute, ma'am.
yeah, mute. Sorry. Can we go to our lecture now? Let's go to. Okay, what research is all about? We haven't started about. We haven't started on this, right? Okay. What is research is all about? Because I think most of us are, we just get ourselves exposed with research when we do assignment, right? But assignment is different from research, yeah. Assignment is actually it's just like an introduction to your research. What you did during your undergraduate study, it's just like an introduction to your research. It does not have the element of how do I say it? Innovation, something new. You are not bringing something new. It does not have the element of depth, in depth, because you are supposed to write maybe in like 20 pages, yeah, 30 pages. So it has no in-depth uh, character, and also it did not have the breadth character, the wide. A research must have this component lah. It contributes something new. That's why we have this term called research gap. When people speak about research gap, you're talking about the title of your research will be able to fill in the blank. What has been missing or what is missing from that kind of discussion. Yeah. So new in that context lah. Not new in the context that you want to, you want to show something great, you want to solve the world. Huh? But one particular title must have something new, at least in the forms of discussion, in the forms of the literatures that you explore, in the forms of the analysis that you provide. Say for example, you write more or less the same topic with the title written in 2000. Now it's 2020 or in 2010, for example. But then the newness of your research is in terms of the literature, because in 10 years time, 20 years time, a lot of literature have developed, yeah, and a lot of problems, new problems arising. So you want also to consider that, changes that have taken place to bring in your current research, giving new perspective or new analysis. So this is something new. So that is in terms of the innovativeness or something new with your research. Secondly, the depth and breadth, 2 and 3. Uh, my supervisor gave me a very good analogy when I wrote my PhD thesis. He said that, Haslina, your thesis should, if you look at your thesis, your chapterization especially should go like this. I don't know whether you can see me or not. From the very beginning, it's wider, wider. You see the breadth of it. So, the beginning chapters is like very big, very broad perspective, but still has its limitation. Cannot also be too broad, too wide like an ocean. Yeah. You need to have the limit for it, and then it narrows down until you reach the conclusion. So the breadth and the depth. So your research should be like that. Yeah. So of course, in the first slide, you see what is my research, what I want to do with the research, who are my research participants. When you are selecting your titles, have these questions in your mind. Where am I going to do this research? Yeah. Is it library research? Is it field work? If it is field work, are you going to meet people? Are you going to use certain methods to administer to the people, interview or questionnaire, virtual or only Google form? When I am going to do research, okay, I think this is the most problematic when it comes to research completion. I'm the well, not only I'm talking on, on my position as the deputy dean, yeah, but also based on my experience, personal experience, with myself, because I did my master's and my PhD in IIM, and also because I have seen my students, yeah, my students struggling with timeline. The problem with us is we fail to have the timeline of our research. Now, in your case, for example, you have taken maybe 1 semester, 2 semesters to finish your coursework, right? So you write in semester 3, in semester 4, or maybe in semester 2, you defend your proposal. Let me tell you, the best semester to defend your proposal is semester 2. Maybe you have to take many courses that you have to postpone your defense or proposal in semester 3. If that happens, it means that you are left with 1 semester only to write your thesis, which is very unfortunate. And that is the reason why many of the students will have to go to semester 5 and 3, 4, 5 and 6, which is the extension period, which is very unfortunate lah. Yeah. During my time, I had 2 semesters to take courses. If I'm not mistaken, I had to take 8 or 10 courses. So every semester I'm taking 5, and then in semester 2 I start developing my proposal. In semester 3 I defended my proposal. During my time when I did my masters, the system was not that well regulated, you see. But then Alhamdulillah, I managed to get my proposal approved in semester 3, and I can start doing my research in semester 3. So Alhamdulillah, I managed to finish in semester 4. Yeah. But how is that possible? You see, I'm sorry to say, it's very hard for me to accept if students say that not enough time, because when I did my masters, there was no, internet resources. I have to go to the library. I'm staying off campus. I was married. I got pregnant. Yeah. And I had to commute from my house to campus every day. I didn't have the luxury of being in the library until late at night. But what I did, I used all my times in the library in a very efficient manner during office hours. So you see, you have to do the timeline, and you have to be able to obey the timeline. But if you are not obeying to the timeline, you procrastinate, then you will face the problems of not able to finish your study. Please, yes, student, please do this timeline, look at the timeline, and always say that you will be there. You will be there, you will be there. If you don't have reasons to take leave, do not take leave. Last semester, many students take leave. I don't understand why you take leave, because you can actually do your research in a very focused manner because you are at home. Of course, there are a lot of distractions. Who say you don't have to? At anywhere you have distraction, but it's how you manage the distractions. Okay, I don't want to speak about that more, because I think I will end up nagging you people. Yeah. So I want to go straight away to what research is. As I said to you just now, your research must able to probe into something new. I see, probe that leads to a new knowledge that is undiscovered and unknown. It's not that like you are repeating something that what people have explored in the past. I know some students, sorry to say, may be guided by certain supervisors who may not, um, how do I say? I don't want to say, negative things about certain supervisors, but like just repeat what have been there, like cola, or something like that. No, a real research is a research that gave contributions to the body of knowledge. To the body of knowledge. Remember, you are not undergraduate student, you are postgraduate student. Yeah. So produce new knowledge of equipment. Of course, this is very, very advanced level, especially PhD and most of the time technical courses, or even theory. Yeah. Or even empirical law means that you go to the field, you find certain evidence, and then you formulate certain theory to understand that phenomena. Yeah. Improve the existing systems, like for example solution. I give you one example. Yeah. Someone whom I know working at the religious department in Negeri Sembilan. After he finished his degree in Al-Azhar University, he went to UKM he was recruited as an officer in Negeri Sembilan Religious Department in Negeri Sembilan, and then he had to encounter the problems of Muslims who wanted to leave religion, who wanted to apostate. So he said, how do I manage these issues? Because when the Muslims came to him, there was no law for him to address these problems. The only law that we have is only in the national constitution, saying that Malay is Muslim by definition. And then if you want to leave religion, you have to go to the Sharia court. You cannot go to the federal court. If you go to the federal court will not be able to solve your problem. It will ask you to go to the Sharia court. And this happened to the case of Azlina Jailani or Lina Joy. And then when these people go to the Sharia, to the religious department, Sharia court does not have any rulings whatsoever to deal with this case. How is the solution? So this person decided to make a master thesis to provide solution. And mashallah, I think he learned well uh, during his undergraduate. He said that we should have this solution of istitabah. If you learn fiqh, fiqh apa fiqh muamalat, I think this is under fiqh muamalat about apostasy, um riddah. So
Mm.
Al-Imam Shafi'i say that for a Muslim, uh, he deserves to be given a grace period called al-istitabah. Someone to talk to him, to advise him, to counsel him to come back to Islam, to
Yes.
repent. Yeah.
Yes.
So this
For
this
three
is
days.
not this is not in the rulings in Sharia court, or in even in the religious departments. They have no avenue for that. So you know what this person is doing? That become the title of his master thesis, and he managed to adopt the solution to the religious department in Negeri Sembilan, and it is still used until today. A master thesis, not PhD thesis. A master thesis. Wow, masya Allah. Yeah. So this is what I relate to this. Empirical law, improve the existing system and theories. Just imagine this istitabah concept being implemented as a ruling in the religious department in Negeri Sembilan. So what he did, in terms of the implementation, the religious department managed to gazette a ruling that whoever wanted to leave religion have to fill in certain form and file it in the Sharia court, and then the Sharia court will make certain order. What is the order? The order is for the person to go for istitabah for about 6 months, 3 or 6 months, and this person should be given what you call that, should be given leave by the company he is working with. Yeah. Not going to be what you call that, stop from working. Yeah. But given leave for 3 to 6 months, and then this person deserve an allowance. You see, if you stop working, you resign from your work, you don't have source of income, right? But the religious department care for the well-being of this person. So this person will put under certain care program, istitabah modules, and he will be given certain allowance, put in a certain venue. And during that 3 to 6 months, there will be ustaz, teachers teaching him about Islam, asking about him, of his intention, and most of the time, these people who wanted to leave Islam, you know, uh, what you call that, review their decision and did not leave Islam. At first, when they adopted this method, people were saying that, wow, religious department in Negeri Sembilan allow people to leave religion. This is haram. This is sinful. This is, Masya Allah. Yeah. Wal'ayya na'udzubillah. People were commenting. But actually, when we didn't allow them to apply, they can even leave Islam as they want, just like Azlina Jailani or this Lina Joy. She already left Islam even though the Sharia court didn't allow him, even though the federal court didn't accept her application. She already eloped and left Malaysia and lived somewhere else and married to a Christian. What can we do? So we still cannot solve the problem or save this person. But with these rulings, the religious department of the Bismillah managed to save a lot of Muslims from being. I hope you are inspired, by this story, because if you are sincere enough, you are really working hard you will be able to help solving the problem of the ummah. Okay, and don't, one more thing I see, to say you frankly lah, because I have seen many cases in Viva, students who are not properly guided by supervisors, who just like to, repeat what have been written in the past, the classical scholars, all these yellow books in the past. It's not that I'm saying we cannot use them, but we have also to be able to see the relevance and how to make them contemporary. Not just to repeat all the rulings in the past in our thesis, but many. So therefore, when this thesis go to external examiner, most of them will get major corrections. And then the students will defend his thesis in the Viva saying that, oh, because what? Sorry to say, some of the students say, oh, I just want to do library research. I just want to do library research. Why? Because the students do not want to employ the process of many steps. Whereas research require you to adopt, to engage into many steps. Because you see, problems are like the string that is very, tightly bind to each other. Have you seen the string that is very, a knot, a knot. So research is when you are trying to untie the knot little by little. It requires patience, it requires, some brilliance, because you need to know the technique, and the right way of doing it, otherwise the string will broken. So you have to be patient and you have to know the right steps of doing it. That's why we learn methodology. You cannot simply, compile all the books, copy here, copy there, copy here, copy there, combine them all together, and then one paragraph just simplify what the works are all about. That is not research. That is parrotizing. You become a parrot, you do parrot talk, repeating what the scholars have been saying, and you are not benefiting from what they have sharing with you. And you see here, using various sources of data and experimentation to bring about. Of course, if you want your thesis to become worth, you have to have a lot of materials to assist you. Yeah, that's why some professors said that at least one day you have to, or at least you have to read 100 articles, 200 articles. Uh, Not book, articles. So book also you have to read, but on top of that is the article. Um, so if you simply communicate what the data is all about, so it is not a research. It is not a research. It is only processing the data. Okay, so this slide say that if you just communicate the data, it is not a research, it's just a matter of processing the data. So bear in mind, the research is not a copy paste job. Yeah, copy paste job, click here, and don't you dare to do copy paste job these days, because we are going to use turning it. Turning it is an application used by your supervisor to check the index of similarity of your work. In IIUM, any thesis that exceed 25% or, that achieve 25% or more than 25% index of similarity, you can be accused as committing plagiarism. Because it means that 1/4 of your thesis or more is simply the copy and paste of the work. So don't you dare to do that. As much as possible, this, of course, 22, 23, we can still accept. But last semester I rejected one thesis. When it reaches me, I look at the index of similarity, 24%, and then I said to the head department, to the supervisor, can you please send to this student to do something about his thesis, because please, try to reduce it up to maybe 20%. Because bear in mind, other universities, like University of Malaya, take only up to 20%. Most of the research university only can take up index of similarity up to 20%. Yeah. So don't, as an academic, this is one of the most important thing that you have to learn. Yeah. But you have to beware plagiarism. Yeah. Because once when you're caught red-handed with plagiarism, your entire academic life will be tarnished. It's a matter of trust, from the academia to the value of your work. All right. Now let me also guide you, at least now, maybe you have something in your mind, so you need to know what type of research that you are about to embark. You look at this slide, you'll find that your research can be categorized into uh, 8 types. Of course, some books have lesser types, they incorporate, for example, conceptual and fundamental, but I think the best, in my opinion, is this eight. No? So, okay, these 8 types of research, what do they mean? Yeah? So conceptual, you understand, conceptual, like for example, you are only discuss about the concept and analyzing the concept. For example, my thesis was about philosophy of religious pluralism. Yeah, during that time when I wrote my thesis, it was in 1999, 2000. This concept of religious pluralism is very new in Malaysia. No one have, as far as I'm concerned, when I look at the thesis title, that time only one thesis written on religious pluralism in Malaysia, and it was in Malay. Yeah, and then I couldn't find many books lah actually. I couldn't find many books, including the book of the founder of religious pluralism, but I get some help from my friends who are at overseas to help me. Some of the professors and also my supervisor helped me. But I think slowly, when something political happened in Malaysia, this philosophy started to become a great debate in Malaysia in 2003, 2005, and then the material started to accumulate it, and I'm so lucky enough because when I had that material accumulated, I'm already in chapter 4, which is the analytical chapter. All right. So conceptual is, philosophical. So therefore, when I choose to write on religious pluralism, for example, I don't decide to discuss the philosophy alone. So say for example, religious pluralism and analysis, because I think that's a very dry way of looking at the philosophy. So when in my reading, I learned that, this philosophy emerged in the Western context, Western Christian context. And then I saw that, the Christians are divided, having divided opinion of this philosophy. So you see, it has Western context, it has a Christian context, yeah. And then, well, what I'm going to do if I learn this from only Christian perspective? I want to know what Islam has to say about this philosophy. So that's why I'm comparing from the perspective of Christianity and Islam. Yeah, but then wow, Christianity very big, Islam also very big. I narrow it down to particular philosophers or who in support of religious pluralism. So I still narrow it down and I put in the limitation of my study. But that was very conceptual research. Yeah. Okay, fundamental research. Fundamental research, when you are discussing about fundamental issues, yeah. For example, in 2000, I think in 2007, 2008, I initiated a research about the principle of dynamic, permanent and dynamic in religion. The concept of permanent and dynamic in religion and religious thoughts. I was inspired by my professor where when I did my PhD, he has introduced to me this concept of permanence and dynamic in religious thought. So, that inspired me to venture further. What is permanent and dynamic in religious thought mean to not only Muslims, but also to the non-Muslims. So I adopted that research and I got funded by the Ministry of Malaysia. Yeah, that time I got 50,000 to do that research. So concept of permanent and dynamic. That is fundamental because you are grounding into these two concepts. Yeah. And then qualitative. Qualitative is not only interview. Actually, library research is a form of qualitative research. Yeah? Library research, conceptual research, fundamental research is a form of qualitative research. But also when you are interviewing people, you are going to the field that is also qualitative, or you are conducting group interviews. Now the famous term for conducting group interviews is called focus group discussion, because you select certain criteria for the interviewees, for your respondent. One of the best methods of interview would be focus group discussion. If you are if you decided to adopt interview, I would encourage you to adopt focus group discussion method. Okay, so qualitative. So library research is also qualitative, conceptual, philosophical is also qualitative. All right. And descriptive. Yeah, descriptive research doesn't mean that you describe and you didn't analyze. Yeah, but descriptive research needs you to describe certain phenomenon and analyze it. For example, when you conduct empirical research, you use observational method. You observe, right? Do you need to explain what you have observed? Yes. So you need to use this descriptive approach because you are adopting observational method. Say for example, you want to observe the behavior of Muslims after Jumu'ah prayer. Kan? So this is of course require you to do descriptive method, and especially when you are doing research on something historical, you need also to adopt descriptive approach. Your research is descriptive, but that does not mean that you need not to be analytical to do analysis. You still have to do analysis. Yeah. Okay, empirical. Empirical research is research on the ground. Research to the field. You go to the ground, you meet people, you take data, you administer survey, questionnaire, interview. This is empirical research. Observation method is one of the form of empirical research. Yeah? You can also uh, initiate a lab. A lab. Yeah, not only that science paper enter into a lab. Say for example, you want to analyze the behavior of children, can? You also can condition them in a certain area, and then you can observe them to see how they behave. In psychology, they do a lot of this empirical research using observational method. Even in our kuliah, we have one lab whereby this lab has a room. The respondents can be in that room and the researcher can be outside the room looking at the respondents without the respondents knowing it. Of course, the respondents were given certain tasks to do or to solve, and the researcher will be sitting outside the room watching the behavior of the respondents. Yeah. Applied research. Well, applied research will require you to do a lot of work in terms of, first of all, you need to come out with certain Not only application, certain um, technique or method, and you adopt it to the people, to the society. So for example, in my fundamental research just now, I mentioned to you, I also use applied uh, type of research whereby I design certain instruments, yeah, questions. I design certain instruments and then I administer, I give the respondents that questions beforehand to study. I mean, and of course I will have to pay them because they have to do a lot of study on that questions. I pay them very, I think good amount lah, 500 ringgit, you see. That because I get funding and I get the fund so I can pay them. I interviewed five learned religious leaders. I post them that questions, you know, I develop instruments to know what they understand from the word dynamic and fundamentals in their religion. And then I said to them, I will interview you and I will record the interview, I will video the interview. So I have the video on my conversation, my dialogue with them. You see, so that is applied whereby I apply that instruments to the respondents. Yeah, and I managed to get my finding based on the instruments that I have, in which I'm able to know their understanding. I managed to test whether their understanding of fundamentals and dynamics are reliable or not. Yeah. And then quantitative, yeah, quantitative as opposed to qualitative. Most of IRK students, Islamic studies do not favor quantitative. I was also like you before. Why? Because we didn't learn SPSS. We were so afraid and phobia of figures. Yeah. And because we didn't have much exposure reading or being guided with SPSS or with quantitative research. But yeah, if you are not interested at this point of time because your master's program is very limited, you have lesser time to do it is okay. But as I said earlier, keep your mind open. Just read. If you have good articles written adopting the empiric quantitative method, read because that will help you to understand and to know the techniques of reporting quantitative research. You will definitely need it in future. There's no regret, believe me, because I am the real benefits of this exercise. Yeah. Okay, analytical. All the thesis must have this dimension. Analytical. Yeah, if you are not analytical, where is the most analytical part of your thesis is chapter 4. You know, as an examiner, normally what I will do before I read the whole thesis, I will read chapter 4, you know, the chapter before the last chapter and the concluding chapter. By reading these two concluding chapter, I will know if this thesis is good or not good. Because I can see if the researcher have managed to make a very good digging in the previous chapters. Yeah. So even though actually even from the very start you have to be analytical. Just imagine when you do your literature review, you have to be analytical. You cannot simply say that okay, book A says this, book B says this, book C says this. So what? If I were your examiner, if I were your supervisor, you come to me, send to me your literature review saying that I have read 20 books. Okay, let me see your literature review, and then you say, all this book tells this, and then I will ask you, so what? So what about those books? I don't want the synopsis of that book. I want to know how that books help you to come with this research. What those books or materials that you have consulted with inspire you to find the gap in this title. You see? So even at the literature review part, you have to be analytical. So all the thesis, all the research have to be analytical. All right. And of course, the most ideal form of research is the research that is hybrid, a combination of two, three, four, in fact, all the types of research. You know, Masya Allah, our lecturers in human sciences, Masya Allah, I admire them. Most of them or some of them manage to adopt all these types in their research. But IRK lecturers, some of them have started, some of them are still stuck in the fundamental, qualitative, descriptive, analytical, definitely. But not many wants to do empirical, not many want to do applied, not many want to do quantitative. Most of them are happy with analytical, conceptual, fundamental, qualitative, and descriptive. So, if you are a researcher of Islamic studies and you manage to have this quality of able to do empirical, applied, and quantitative, you will definitely get more chances to be employed. Especially if you know SPSS. Alright, so basically I have simplified what I've explained just now in these slides. Yeah. Do you have any questions with regard to the types just now? I take that you don't have question yet. Alright. Now let's talk about research paradigm. Just now we are giving certain category type of research. Now we want to introduce you to a more broader perspective of research, which is research paradigm. Yeah, research paradigm. Now, this research paradigm encompasses these three important aspects. The first is with regard to the nature of your research. The ontology of your research. We have discussed this earlier. What is your research about? The ontology, the nature, al-mahiyah. Al-mahiyah. Huh? So you need to really know the meaning of your research. And bear in mind, the meaning of your research is actually beyond what is written in the text. But what this meaning brings you as an academic, as a researcher, as a Muslim researcher, as ibadullah. Because you want to be good researcher, you want to be good lecturer, right? But what actually are you doing this? Is it only for the sake of money? Is it only for the sake of position? That's why some of us become very arrogant because we thought that I'm a professor, I know everything. So don't tell me that I should do this, I should do that, or I should learn more. That's it. Actually, when you have your PhD, it's not the end of your knowledge seeking. It's the beginning of your knowledge seeking. If you stop from learning, you become dinosaur. You become archive. You are a professor, but your knowledge will not be able to benefit the people. So you find some very old books can, but it's no longer you in use today. So you get stuck in the shelf. Of course, people look with admiration at you, but they will not be able to benefit anything from you. We don't want this to happen. So find meanings in your research because it will make you a humble person. So even though you are super professor, like Professor Kamal, Masya Allah, a super professor, Professor Kamal Hassan, but still, want to learn from people, very humble. Whenever he sees me, he call me professor. I'm associate professor. I feel very small to him. But one time I said to him, Prof, I'm so sorry. I wanted so much to come to your class. Zilal Quran. I want to listen to your lecture. And he said, no, Haslina, my lecture is not for you. You are a professor. My lecture is for the public. I feel so low. I said, MashaAllah, I want to learn more from you, Professor. This is a professor. You know, he is a professor because he is in Malaysia the ultimate for a professor to be Professor Ulung. It's called Professor Ulung, yeah. No one else except for him. But he is very humble. This is what makes you a good, genuine academic. So in terms of the nature of your knowledge or your research, yeah, and then epistemology, how are you going to know? That's why I say if you limit yourself to the library research, you will not be able to push the boundary of knowledge. Yeah, you have to have more sources. Look at the religion of Islam. We are not only limiting ourselves to the Quran and Sunnah, but the Quran also says, afala yatadabbarun, afala yatafakkarun, yeah? Afala yubsirun. What yubsirun means? Observe. Observe means look. This is what this is empirical. Huh? What else? Hearing. Yeah? This is also empirical. When you listen, this is empirical. So the Quran asks us to use our rational, our reasoning, to use our experience to know better. And that's why Muslims, in terms of its intellectual tradition, grows at one point of time, because we have uh, a comprehensive sources of knowledge. We learn from different sources. Yeah, but the Christians at that point of time limits themselves only to the Bible. They say it's revelation, right? Yeah. To the Bible and to their ruhbaniyah, to the religious leaders. And the religious leaders were very dogmatic in the sense that you don't ask a lot about religion. This is how religion is. And that makes the religion become, or knowledge become stagnant. And you have to understand, that's why during those periods, from the 4th century to the 11th century, in the Christian experience, it is called what? Dark Ages. No, 14th century. It is called Dark Ages because there was no advancement in the real sense, not in terms of the knowledge. The only knowledge or discipline that was attained at that time were only theology. The Christians were very serious in theology at that point of time. No scientific discovery, so on and so forth. But Muslims, mashallah, as you see, after the emergence of Islam and starting from the 632, starting from the 7th century until 12th century, Muslims venture into science and technology and knowledge because the Muslims open up its horizon of knowledge, not only from the Quran and Sunnah, but also from a lot of ijtihad, a lot of qiyas, analogy. But unfortunately, when Muslims started to talk about Babul Ijtihadu Mughlaqun, and Muslims were started to Muslims started to have political what you call that, instability, drop, become a prey of lust and power and money. Then we fall. Yes, Brother Hassan, you want to say something, please? Brother Hassan, I thought you want to say something. Yes.
Door of Ijtihad is not Mughlaq.
Babul, come
Babul
again. What did you say?
Ijtihad laysa bimughlaq.
You said that, but at a certain point of time, the fuqaha said so. Have you heard of that?
But is it
Yes, Hassan.
yes?
Ah, You say it is not mughlaqun, right? But at certain point of time, there
Yes,
were some
but
fuqaha. Yes, but
yeah,
what? I want to listen to.
some fuqaha says
Mm-hmm.
babul ijtihad yani babul furu' min al ijtihad is open.
Mm.
babul ijtihad min al usul والقواعد الكلية is مغلق.
I think that is the catch.
Yeah,
Some fuqaha say, or even some usuliyun say, you don't have what do you call that? There is no argument in terms of the issues of akidah, but they
yeah,
misinterpret it. They misinterpret. Still, you can deal
yes,
with akidah issue, especially now you have a lot of misleading teachings or misunderstandings of akidah. You need to clarify that with
yes,
justification. Just like Al-Imam al-Ash'ari, Al-Imam al-Ghazali, like for example, Al-Imam al-Ghazali first blasphemous the philosopher, right? But then he
yeah, yeah,
studied
yes,
philosopher.
yes, yes,
Sorry, he studied philosophy.
yeah,
Why he studied
yeah,
philosophy? Because he wanted to attack the philosopher. But at first he blasphemous. Well, not blasphemous in a real sense. He said, what do you call that? They are bankrupts. How is it in Arabic?
yes, please,
The work of Al-Imam al-Ghazali that condemned the philosophers, Tahafut al-Falasifah, the bankruptcy of the philosopher. He's condemning the philosopher. But philosopher, mashallah, at that
yeah,
point
yeah,
of time, you have a lot of logics and mantik. Yes.
yes, yeah, yeah,
Mm. But he
yes,
finally used a
yeah,
lot of mantics and logics, you see? And he didn't stop he didn't stop people from learning philosophy. Even though at the end of his life, he said the best knowledge is, or the best science, the best discipline is the discipline of what? Tazkiyatun nafs, which is in Sufism. But he didn't call it Sufism as such. Huh? He called it here in his work, here Ulumuddin. And the core of it, the starting of it is Tazkiyatun nafs. Because
yes,
at the age of 40, he was a great theologian, he was a great Sufist, he was great
yeah,
Usuliyun and Fuqaha, Faqih as well. But
okay,
one day, yes, but one day he found that he was speechless. He couldn't deliver lecture. And then he put himself in isolation. Isolation, right? At the minaret, he isolate himself in the minaret and he wrote. What did he write? Huh? Arif,
yes,
Hassan, Misbah, what did
yes,
Al-Ghazali wrote when he isolate himself in the minaret?
minaret.
Ihya
Yeah,
Minaret
Ulumuddin.
is not clear, come to me. So,
he
Ihya
entered the mosque.
Ihya
That
Ulumuddin,
mosque has
right?
no, so he climbed the minaret, isolate himself there, do a lot of reflection. That process is the process of tazkiyatun nafs, and he wrote a book. What did he wrote? What did he
Ihya
write?
Ulumuddin.
Oh, Ihya Ulumuddin is later.
Later. Hmm.
Later after this book. After this manuscript. Have you heard of Al-Muqi Minaf Dalal?
Oh, Al-Munkis Minad Dhalal. Okay, okay.
المنقذ من الضلال.
Yes. That is the book
Yes,
that a
Biography.
المنقذ
self-reflection,
من الضلال.
a self-reflection of Al-Imam al-Ghazali. He said that what all this fame, whether I become a fuqaha, a mutakallimun, an usuliyun, is this only out of fame? And he started to realize that he has very diverted, wrong intention in knowledge seeking. All this knowledge belong to Allah. I should not feel proud of myself because at any time Allah can take it away from me. That's how he feel when Allah take away from him the ability to deliver lecture, whereas during his time he was one of the great lecturer. When I did
Yes,
my
ma'am.
master,
End of the
yeah.
day, we can say we were in self isolation and we have finished our master self isolation.
Well, we have to do it lah. Self-reflection, we have to do it, mashallah. Uh, I, 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 I was very
Tazkiya is
lucky,
not self isolation, teacher. I think so. Tazkiya
but
is mean Tamiru Zahiri wal Batin.
of course, but Imam Al-Ghazali managed to
Yes.
acquire it after he did a self-reflection. You know, you do
Hmm.
self-reflection when you are alone. That's why when you do Qiyamullah, right? Because it's the time
Yeah,
when we are
yeah, yeah.
alone. You know, we do a lot of
Yes.
repentance, right? We talk to Allah. We feel so intimate with Allah. That is the process of tazkiyatun nafs. So Imam Al-Ghazali managed because he was facing a lot of dilemma that time. You know, he
Yes,
was
yes,
so
yes.
carried away with fame. That's why he bring himself away from people. You are not yet in
Hmm.
that position tau. When people always look forward to you, everything people ask you this and that. So you feel that, oh, I know the solutions to everything. So he wants to
Yes.
avoid this feeling of, of pride, of arrogance. He wants to diminish that feeling. That's why he run away from people.
Yes,
Otherwise, he
yes,
will
ma'am.
not be able to stop from people seeing him. That's why he isolate himself and do a lot of reflection, checking on his intention. So what I'm trying to say just now is with regard to the epistemology, our sources of knowledge. Yeah.
Yes.
So we know that of course lah Quran, Hadith, yeah, the Sunnah of the Prophet, the Sirah of the Prophet. But of course also we learn from our experience. Yeah. Like I said, when we want to, we learn from SPSS because we want to learn from the society. We want to understand their behavior. So one of the best tool to understand the behavior of the people apart from observation is to adopt quantitative survey method, doing survey. For example, okay, for example, my PhD thesis is purely conceptual and philosophical. So
Yes.
I said, well, I'm not happy. I want to know what the people understand from this philosophy. That's why at first I adopt qualitative method using interview. Remember I said to you just now, I narrowed down my research to the concept of dynamic and fundamental, dynamic and permanent. And then I adopt I adopt interview method. Yeah. So I know the views of the learned religious leaders about religion. Yeah. Because in religious pluralism, some scholars believe that religion evolve, religion can change. Religion is dynamic. There is nothing permanent in religion. That's why I discuss about this concept of permanent and dynamic. But then first I explore qualitative method. And then I said, okay, now I know the view of religious leaders. I want to know the view of the people on the street, the view of the public, the learned one, the not learned one, the young one, the elderly one. So I have to use quantitative method. That's why I learned quantitative method. I developed the instruments, developed the questionnaire. So now I know people who have studied religion, people who affiliate themselves in NGOs, the learned one, the non-learned one, what are their perceptions and understanding of religious pluralism? Why? Because I have a number of tools. In terms of the epistemology, the sources of knowledge are diverse. You see? All right. So I'm giving you very little of my experience. I know many of my friends are even greater. Mashallah, for example, a friend of mine from sociology. Can you just imagine she get a funding, for her research on the behavior of people towards public transportation. It's very hard to educate people using public transportation, right? So he wants to know what actually deter people from using public transportation. So she prepared a proposal, and a proposal win the funding 50 something, 50 or maybe 60 something. Because at first she also started with qualitative research. Now she can do quantitative. All right. Okay, and then methodology. So what are you going to, what are the tools that you are going to adopt? Is it, are you going to, limit yourself to the library research, or you are going to do field work? Are you going to do field work? How do you go about finding it out? Okay, so as you can see here, the research paradigm, the research paradigm, you can see the cursor here, right? The mouse here, ontology, epistemology, the theoretical perspective, the methodology and methods here, and the sources. These are the research paradigm of your research lah, of your thesis. Okay. All right, there is a question just now. Madam, I have a question. How do you want to know whether a topic is suitable for thesis? Yeah, that's why lah, Hana. Were you with me in the beginning of the um, lecture just now? That's why I said the first exercise is for you to submit to me 5 titles, and then I will advise you whether those titles are doable or not. Again, I want to stress what I have discussed in the previous meeting. I want so much that your exercise in this particular course help you to work on your proposal. So you need not to redo your proposal after you finish from this course. But what you do, you nominate a supervisor, because you need to have a title to nominate your supervisor. That's why do it well in this class. Find the title, make a good reading. When you manage to find a title with my help, little help, you fill in the form, nominate a supervisor. The committee will assign you the supervisor, and then you show your supervisor the proposal that you have developed in this class. So you have cut short the process. Instead of starting from zero, you have managed to do it in class. What your supervisor will be able to do, he will help you to further improve the proposal. So be serious with this course, because I want to make your life easier. We want to make your life easier, not I want to make your life easier. So basically the process, okay, now this is about the process of writing a research. Okay, so what are the process of writing a research? So you see there, I will not go one by one very quickly. The open ideas. When you start your research, you will go through this process. You will start to uh, look at the problems either inductively or deductively. So you will know from your title whether you are adopting an inductive approach or deductive approach to the research. For example, like Brother Misbah said just now that, something to do about mu'jizah in the Quran. So you are making an inductive approach. Because mu'jizah become the bigger topic and then you are going to narrow down to the issues in the Quran about mu'jizah. For example, so this is inductive approach. But what is deductive approach? Deductive approach is, for example, like I said just now, the research done by my friend about the behavior of the people. So maybe you can say, you can start with the um, the behavior of Kuala Lumpur, sorry, the the living style of the Malaysian of the Kuala Lumpur population is to have more than 2 cars at home, which indicate that they prefer to commute using their personal vehicles. They don't favor using public transportation. So this is your deduction of what you have seen on the ground and you want to test this. But then your findings later on say that, oh, actually no lah, you know, your observation, you make a deduction that, oh, people love to have their own cars to go from one place to another. But when you start the research, interview people, then you find out, oh no lah, they just want to own the car. They go to the work by using LRT. You see? So you start from a small issue and then you get the broader perspective of the findings. Okay? Alright. So observation, discussion, academic research. This is how you open up your ideas to a research, either through inductive method or deductive method or through your observation. Is one recent technique in generating ideas. It is called grounded theory. Say for example now COVID kan, there's not so much yet empirical research done on COVID. So you want to know how to formulate a research problem statement from this phenomenon, epidemic. So you do a grounded theory. You start going to the ground, you know, asking simple questions like,
I am sorry, class. It happens again. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can? Oh,
Yes,
I'm so
yes.
We are hearing.
sorry. I'm truly sorry. This never happened before, but this is the second time it happened. Now I am angry. So sorry if I turn green.
Yes.
All right. No, it's again. The light is again. All right. Oh my goodness, this is so bad. Okay, well, me just now. About how you generate ideas for your research, right? And then focus ideas problem. Okay, at first when you have this very open idea, you go to the literature and you narrow it down because you want to
Yes.
zoom into the problems. Once when you are able to zoom into the problems, you want to formulate the problem. This is when you start to draft a statement of problem. You see, writing statement of problem that consists maybe a paragraph in your thesis will take a lot of effort. Committee will be able to know whether your research is good or not or viable or not by only looking at your statement of problem. So statement of problem is very important because it actually simplify these three processes. The open ideas, the focus on the idea of problems, and the problems formulation. Say for example, just now when I said about you want to know the behavior of of the people in Kuala Lumpur in terms of using public transportation, right? Yeah. So of course, if you are adopting grounded theory, you have to go to the ground. Before you go to the ground, you have to do some readings and find the valid questions to ask on the ground, and then you start to generate a theory based on that's why it's called grounded theory, based on the questions that you pose on the ground, and then you will be able to know, oh, my research now is, deduction or a deductive approach, or inductive approach, and that is based on observation, based on interview, yeah, and you have the literature to support you to do this research, and then you start phrasing your statement of problem. Yeah. So for example, a very quick example that I can give you with regard to this title, or example, Kuala Lumpur is a very developed city, is there's a lot of developed in Kuala Lumpur. Yeah. And then you start to see. However, despite the lots of money spent by the government to develop this infrastructure, public transportation, it is found that most of the people in Kuala Lumpur, yeah,
Madam, I can't see this slide.
a survey on the ground found that even though they have, most of the people were found to have more than 2 cars at home, but they are also benefiting or using the frequent users of the public transportation. Yeah, so this research, therefore, now you come to the statement. This research, therefore, um, intends to attempt to understand the behavior of the people in Kuala Lumpur in terms of their perceptions, um, and their not only perceptions, yeah, their behavior towards the using the the public services, the public transportation provided by the government. I'm giving you very quick examples based on the phenomena that I stated. Processes help you to bring into this one paragraph. Make sure that your statement of problem is not more than 1 page. If your statement of problem is more than 1 page, this is nonsense. Yeah, this is nonsense. Okay. All right. So, once when you have the statement of problem, then you can start developing research objective, research questions, and then you can start deciding what type of methodology that you are going to use to do that research. Okay. And then after that, you can normally when you have the first chapter, your proposal will be the first chapter, students. That's why this course is very serious, because we are helping you to work on the first chapter of your research. Once, if your proposal is clear, because during the writing of research proposal, you need also to spell out the chapterization. Yeah. So if you have the right research proposal, the right chapterization, the only thing that can deter you from writing is your laziness or your procrastination. That's what I can say. Madam is so strict, eh? But that's how I feel. Okay. That's how what I feel, especially because you have all the chapter already. What makes you what actually brings you problems in completing the research? All right. Any question before I carry on to the next discussion? My computer goes hanging now.
Okay, I have a question, please.
Yes, please.
If I mentioned my methodology, I will mention the methodology which I use only in the study of my case, or the methodology of the research all. Because I have a methodology, it's new in religious study, called Phenomenology of Religion. It's based on interaction with religion and with the people who are following this religion. But in another side, I didn't see this methodology as methodology for research for all. What should I do in this case?
Okay, Brother Abdul Karim.
Yes.
What do you mean by methodology for all? You mean for the whole of your thesis?
Yes.
Uh, Phenomenology of religion is actually a very broad term. It's not only a methodology, it's a discipline in itself.
Mm.
It's a discipline in itself. Well, it is one of the good method because it is empirical. Yeah, it is empirical method, but just beware that phenomenological approach in the Western context is purely human approach, human understanding, and human interpretation of religion. And
Mm.
the Western disciplines or Western sciences of religion love phenomenological method because they interpret religion based on human practices.
Yes.
Yes, like for example, Muslims in Malaysia, Muslims in Japan, Muslims in Indonesia. It is useful to understand how people understand religion in that particular part. But bear in mind, the people's understanding and practices and traditions is not necessarily what Islam teaches us to do. So we have also to be wary about this approach uh, that regard religion as simply human institution.
Yes, but in fact, Muslims who are started this method before Western.
So you are referring to Al-Biruni.
Yes, I did no research about the Biruni. He's already did this, used this method before 1000 ago.
I was like you also before. I remember in 2007 or 2008, after I managed to do my research, and then my first research also was about meta religion of Al-Faruqi, and that Al-Faruqi appreciates Al-Biruni very much, yeah. And then I said Al-Biruni adopted empirical, phenomenological approach. In fact, some of the Western scholars have some appreciation for Al-Biruni, yeah? More than who is this, Max Muller, right?
Yes.
But then this person said, well, you should know also that Al-Biruni adopted analytical approach and also used Quranic or revelations to criticize Hinduism. Criticize Hinduism in his Kitab Malil Hindu. Yeah. So it's not a purely phenomenological approach like the West adopted it, but again, there is an element of analytical, and go back to our sources just now, the Quran, the Sunnah, the Revelation.
Yes.
And just bear in mind that whatever research that we make about religious practices of the people, that does not represent the religion.
Mm.
But Al-Biruni make it very interesting. You know why? Because when he wanted to understand the so-called Hinduism, actually it is not Hinduism. He didn't call Hinduism. He called it Al-Barahim.
Mm.
Sakau call Hinduism. Actually, Al-Biruni didn't call the Hindus religion Hinduism. He called it Al-Hind, the people of the Indian region, and he called them his subject matter, the people that he studied, Al-Barahimah, the Brahmins.
Yes.
Yeah,
He studied the Brahmin.
Brahman, yes.
Yes,
Yes, yes.
Phenomenological in the context of what the Brahmins understand from the religion. Because in his assumption is that if you want to know about the religion, you cannot simply ask the people on the streets. You have to ask the learned of the religion. And that's why he goes to study from the Brahmin. Yeah, right. So that give weightage lah to his research. But then the Western people distorted it in the context of, okay, so Islam to the Muslims in Malaysia is like this. Islam to the to the Japanese is like this. To the Indonesian is like this. Because they jumbled up together traditions and the fundamentals of religion. But anyway, this is one good method. Maybe you can say a phenomenological approach, a critical analysis. Critical analysis. That's a very good method. But you have to defend the method. I suspect in the defense, you have to defend the method because the committee will ask you, what is phenomenological method? Why do you want to adopt this method? Okay.
Okay.
Have you read Al-Faruqi's works? Well, not so much works lah. Al-Faruqi's writings on phenomenology.
I read one book for Farouk in my degree about Judaism, about aspects of Jews, because I was studying Hebrew.
Okay. Okay, you try to get, you're very lucky, Hebrew, because Faruqi loves using this Latin and also Hebrew term in his work. So you get his book on Christian ethics, and Ataullah Siddiqui compile his works in Islam and other religions. I think in one of the articles he compiled, Faruqi discussed about phenomenology. Phenomenology. All right. There is one article also, I think, meta-religion. You read his article on meta-religion, mashallah, very beautiful. Yeah, Abdul Karim, very lucky. You learn Hebrew. I should learn from you.
Thank you.
All right, so that's about this research paradigm. I'm so sorry for the noise. My room is just next to the window. Okay. So this video clip you can watch yourself. Research design. Okay, research design. You need a mind map to do this. When you are clear about your research, you want to make a research design. How are you going to start with this research? Yeah. So it requires you to draw here, like drawing a mind map. Yeah. So maybe at one point you say what question. You have several questions, so you want to identify the most important question that you want to deal with in this research. Yeah. And what data? Of course, you have a lot of data in front of you, especially in terms of the reading materials. Yeah. So what are the reading materials, at least at this point of time, that is useful for you to write your literature review? And then what data to collect in your readings. When you read the material, you have to classify them, put them in certain themes, because that will help you to know which one is relevant to you, which one you need, and which one you have to put on hold for a while because you have yet to you have yet to explore in them. And finally, how are you going to analyze the results? Therefore, under the methodology, you will have to explain not only method of gathering the data, or method of collecting the data, but also you have to spell out method of analyzing the data. So under the methodology, you have two subtopics, that is collection of the data and analysis of data. Alright, so you need to plan from now on. So maybe in your case, Brother Abdul Karim, for example, method of collecting the data is phenomenological method, because you're going to use observation, maybe interview to help you to acquire or to get the data. And then with regard to the analysis, you need to take maybe comparative analysis, comparative and critical analysis, maybe historical analysis, because maybe you get historical data when you do the phenomenological, you adopt the phenomenological method just now. Yeah. Okay, so maybe you need historical approach or historical method. Okay. All research design must consist of two parts: purpose and action plan. Yeah. So when you, I mean, research design is a broader perspective of your research. Like for example, if I am doing field work, yeah. So first I would say, okay, this is what I'm going to do first: the literature review part, the developing the questionnaire part, or maybe the observation part. And then I want, as I said just now, on the theory of, on the issue of behavior of the people in Kuala Lumpur. So I would say, okay, people in Kuala Lumpur have cars. People in Kuala Lumpur have, also use public transportation. And then a big question mark: why they have more cars but they are using public transportation? So you can derive an assumption that people in Kuala Lumpur living style or life quality is good. That's why they can afford to have two cars. But they cannot stand traffic jam, so they prefer to use public transportation to commute to their workplace. So you what you call that? You design your your hypothesis. I'm looking for this term. Your hypothesis, you want to test this hypothesis, saying that people in Kuala Lumpur, they have good quality of life, so they can own good number of cars, but they choose to have public, they choose to commute with public transportation because they cannot stand with traffic jam. And you are going to test this when you adopt the method later on. Either you want to interview them, or either you want to devise an instruments in terms of questionnaire, or group interview to them. Alright, this is also part of the design, because you are going to decide whether to use questionnaire, whether to use focus group discussion, and whether to use interview. Okay, and what next? After that, how are you going to analyze? I think either you are going to use SPSS, yeah? Okay, so let's say you use questionnaire, your research design, you put, okay, SPSS. But then, what type of interpretation, we don't call it interpretation, how are you going to interpret the data? What are the interpretive method that you are going to use? Either you are using correlational, either you are using multivariance, either you are using relational or regression, apa tu, um, technique or theory to evaluate the data that you have. Or if you are using focus group discussion, you're going to use thematic analysis. Because I once used focus group discussion, so I use thematic analysis, whereby I, based on the data, I I give themes to them, and then I analyze the data. So that is included in your research design. And finally, of course, your conclusion. You see, if you have this research design very clearly, it will bring you a happy life, a much easier life in your research. But if you do not have a research design, even though you are doing library research, it's like you are, diving in an ocean.
Mm.
It's very big. You do not know how to go about. Yeah. Inshallah, yeah, you can try this, but it needs a lot of brainstorming lah. Actually, you look at the slides. I don't know whether you have the slides now. It looks like an engine there. Problem statement. Are you with the slides? No, eh? If I want
No,
to open it, it will. You don't have it with you now, eh?
no one I think have the slides now.
Because I have shared it in the Google Classroom.
Mm.
Have you opened up your Google
I
Classroom?
already opened in my classroom, but now
Yeah.
the slides appear. I thought
There
I'm
is.
talking about the,
You
but
go.
I
You go there because I have uploaded PowerPoint notes as well as as well as my YouTube lecture. I'm a YouTuber, okay? So
Yes.
I'm not famous yet. You, my daughter
Yeah.
You will
is
be famous
laughing
within
because
a short time.
once I'm famous YouTuber, you will regret
Yeah.
for not knowing me, okay?
And we will subscribe every day.
Sorry, Miss Ba. Let me go back. Oh my goodness, this is so. I'm so sorry of the hiccups, people. And my computer is super slow.
No problem.
No, when you watch the apa tu, and you look at the PowerPoint later, you'll find my understanding because I use the graph in which I put it the statement of problem as the 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 important part of your research. When you have a clear research statement of problem, you will be able to to carry your research successfully. Okay, let me show you. Alamak, but then okay, this here. Here, who is coming to my class? Nurul Nazira. Does anybody know? Just admit. I don't think Nurul Nazira in our class, but I don't know if this person get into the wrong class. Nurul Nazira. I just admit, is Nurul Nazira here? I don't know whether you are in the right class. Maybe you want to enter a different class. Okay, now I'm sharing. Now I'm okay. Now I'm sharing with you again the slides. Very difficult to illustrate with my very limited words. Oh, that's why it is not responding. Okay, never mind lah. You can see for yourself later on, right? It will be very time consuming for me to open up again this PowerPoint because it's already stuck. So, hold on, yeah. Because I can't remember all my slides. Okay, week 1 and okay. What else I need to discuss today? I think that's it for the first lecture. In the last slides, remember I told you just now that some other research methods book will provide you different types. Yeah? So you will find that they are also interesting type. For example, case study. Yeah, case study, which is not included in uh, uh, the illustration I showed you just now. Case study is also very interesting. Yeah, one of my supervisors done a case study research in Indonesia about the struggle between Muslims and Christians in the development of churches by the Christians in the population where Muslims are the majority and Christians are minority. That's very sensitive issues in Indonesia and bring a lot of not only debate
but also struggle, yeah, and crisis and riots, yeah. So her work is about case study on the establishment of the churches in the minority Muslim population, and she studied about what actually caused that struggle, because there are many churches built in Indonesia but did not invite for such struggle. So she wanted to know what actually the real problem of the establishment of that churches, and she managed to discover what actually the problems. Yeah, so that is case study, a case study. A case study is a very specific method. I would like also to encourage you to adopt this method if you really find a worth problems to study, because that will make you an expert of that particular issue. For example, in the story that I said in the research I said just now, if my student continue her PhD, her PhD, then and continue in that line of discussion, interfaith relation, you can develop your portfolio as someone who has the expertise in interfaith relation, for example, because you have data on the ground. Yeah. So observational design, mixed method. Okay, I want to explain about mixed method design. Maybe I told you last week, yeah, about mixed method design. This is very suitable for PhD. I don't encourage you to adopt it for your masters, because mixed method design is a method whereby you adopt quantitative and qualitative at the same time. Yeah, quantitative means that you do either survey first and then you do interview later. But then some people misunderstood mixed method, like, you have one research question, yeah, a set of research question, and then you administer this research question, one using survey, quantitative method, another using interview. This is wrong. This is wrong conception of mixed method. Mixed method approach is by adopting one set of questions, administer it to the respondents using quantitative method, and your analysis of this quantitative method bring you to another type of research, which is qualitative. So this data help you to design another set of questions, research question via interview, qualitative question. So you see, this is very beautiful method. Beautiful method. Why? Because at first you get the breadth of the study. Because quantitative method give you the breadth of the study. You know the generic data. But then when you analyze, you want to go deeper, but statistic will not be able to help you to go deeper. You want to go deeper, so you can extract from the findings of the quantitative to develop questions that can help you to go deeper into the research. Very beautiful. Yeah. But for PhD, it's worthwhile because you will be able to learn using both methods at the same time. Yeah. And it's a challenging method. Alright, so that's about it with regard to what I think we need to cover for this week. Actually, I wanted to discuss until the next slide, week 2, because we are now in week 2, okay? But I don't know. Are you tired? Not tired, because you are listening, But I can understand 2 hours sitting,
It's okay, ma'am.
And it is azan already. Are we? Should we stop now, or you would like to have another 30 minutes or 10 minutes, or you want to have question and answer session? Up to you.
Okay, just ma'am, one thing. So, what about our Jotero system? How we learn the Jotero format?
Come again. Come again.
Jotero format.
Hold on. Hold on. Just now when I talk, did you listen or not?
Yeah, listen.
Oh, oh, okay. Because I was not with my my earphone just now. I forgot to use my earphone. Okay. So yes, what was the question again? Sorry, I didn't hear you well, Miss Bah.
Jotiro format.
Oh, Zotero. Zotero requires longer time. Okay, you know, Miss Ba, what I'm going to do with you with this, I'm going to upload my video clip on YouTube so you can watch it before we discuss it. Okay, and then you can test using it again and again until we discuss it. I think I'm supposed to discuss it in week 4, if I'm not mistaken. Any
Inshallah.
questions? So what is your suggestion? Shall we continue or shall we continue? I know it is Maghrib, but I know that not everybody pray on time, including myself. As-salatu ala
Can
waqtiha.
continue.
I remembered my late husband. My late husband. I like to argue with him. So sometimes when he delayed his prayer, I said, As-salatu ala waqtiha. And then he said to me, you know what ala waqtiha means? He said, ala waqtiha means you don't pray after the time. You pray in between the time.
Yes, yes.
Literally, yes. But the way we are trained is that whenever you listen to azan, you immediately go for prayer lah kan. So that's how we interpret as-salatu ala waqtiha. But then my husband made, some kind of joke lah, you know. As-salatu ala waqtiha is in between the time.
Time,
So
yes.
which mazhab are you following? Which interpretation are you following here? Allahu Akbar. Alright, so any more questions? Actually, I'm tired lah. I've been talking for about 2 hours now. And plus all this interference, internet interference. So stressful. Alhamdulillah, I postponed the lecture this morning, the webinar. Otherwise, I will be very frustrated if it is happening. Okay, Arif. Arif ada soalan ke? Arif dah makan tu? Makan apa tu, Arif? Sedapnya lapar tu, Arif. Any question, Hana? Tak ada question?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Siapa ni? Who is this?
Salahuddin.
Salahuddin, yes.
Actually, ma'am, as I am a Quran Sunnah student, so is it compulsory to write the title with related to Quran Sunnah, or I can take another topic with related another department?
Because your degree is Quran Sunnah kan. Logically speaking lah. But we'll see. You can try to generate the title, and let's see if I can help you to relate the title to Quran Sunnah studies. But Quran and Sunnah very broad lah. Quran and Sunnah. So either one lah. Quranic perspective or Sunnah perspective, right? You are magnificent if you can be experts in both Quran and Sunnah lah. Right? What was your first degree?
Yes,
In
ma'am.
Islamic studies. Your first degree in Islamic
Yes.
studies.
Yes.
Very broad. Now you have to decide to narrow down. Yes. Anything else?
Thank you.
Sisters?
Thank you.
Okay.
Madam,
Alia? Yeah. Yes, Sana.
so when you want to find a good topic, we need to do a lot of reading. So, but I have a problem on how to choose a good literature or a good article to read. What is the important features of for a good article?
Okay, there is a technique. It is called snowball technique. Snowball technique. What is snowball technique? When you find, you read a lot kan, it is impossible that you don't find one good article, right? Especially if you are going to the right, what you call that? Right search engine. Like I said in the previous class, JSTOR, or you go to Academia EDU or ResearchGate, you will definitely or even if you have money, you can read some good articles from Scopus, WO, Web of Science, Web of Science, WOS. Yeah, Brother Abdul Karim, I don't know if where were you studied before, Brother Abdul Karim?
I studied in Egypt, Cairo University.
Okay, do you still have access to the library of your university?
Sorry, come again.
You have access to the library, to your university's library. Do you still have access to it now?
Now I haven't any email to my university. When I finish my degree, everything is removed.
Itulah.
Mm.
Otherwise, maybe if your university has that access to Web of Science or Scopus Journal, you can get to that articles. Or any of you have friends in the US who study in the US and in the UK?
Mm. I,
Can.
I can talk to my professor in Egypt to help me.
Yes, then. Okay. So, help them to get the title that is useful for you, because over here maybe you cannot get that work. So you get somebody overseas to help to share with you the article. This person can download the article for you.
Mm.
So with his mercy lah, because of course this article is very expensive, but some university purchase it and they get it for free for the students. Our university do not have this, only some number of Web of Science, yeah.
I already agree with them to publish one article, inshallah, in January in
Uh-huh.
one university in my country, not Cairo University, Nufia University. It's
Okay,
cheap than any place.
what article is that? Maybe I can also
About
publish it.
the title Phenomenology of Religion and Islamic Perspective.
Oh,
Article.
mashallah.
Mm.
Mashallah, congratulations. I like that spirit. Yeah. So you can get access to your friends to get these articles. So Hannah, the snowball technique is that when you have these good articles, what you do, you go to their literature review and you find the word
The
in
voice.
bukan literature review, references, bibliography or
Oh,
references. So you go to the references that they are using. Of course, you cannot get them all. You will get, most of them. And then what you do, you also go to the references used by these references. So that's the technique of getting good articles. Snowball techniques.
okay, thank you, madam.
All right. Okay.
Madam, but for thesis, where can I get to read past thesis? Like, your IIM, I need to go to the physical library. So for other researcher, where I can get their past thesis?
Okay, you know what? If you go to IREP, you will be able to get the thesis written by most of the lecturers in Malaysia.
Oh.
You go to IREP and but then most of the lecturers do not give full access to to their work. So what you do, you have to email them. Tell them that some of them publish in article, publish in a book, in a form of book. So you send email to them. Can I read your thesis, or is it published? If it is published in article, which article is that? If it is published in book, what book is that? Is it still sold? Or if it is no longer in sold, do you have the copy? Can I borrow from you?
Okay.
IREP, yeah, IREP. You go to the library research getaway. You go to the library. There is what you call that? It is called research getaway. You click there, you find.
Okay.
And nanti I will share with you lah what I mean. It's very difficult for me to explain without the actual website.
Okay. Thank you, madam.
Alright. Okay, any more questions? Syahida quiet je. Alia, Nazrina.
No, madam.
Madam.
Arif makan lagi. Alright, so ada lagi tak ada? Syahida, are you asking anything?
Yes, madam.
Yes. What yes?
No, no.
Yes, no. Alright, now you all actually I'm very tired lah. Okay. So I wanted to finish the slide number 2, but I don't think I can hold it anymore. 2 hours sitting is so painful. Alright, so inshallah what I will do, I will upload some materials on the Google Classroom. Abdul Karim, you can start downloading the materials on Google Classroom and watch my video. Ask the video to go faster 2 times, 3 times because I speak very slowly in the YouTube video. And inshallah next class we can just do consultation instead of me giving lecture for 2 hours. Okay? So we can speed up a little bit. And I will also upload the Zotero thing. Alright?
Yes.
Alright.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you so much for the interaction.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
What about Mendeley, teacher?
Mandalay, I will tell you later, but study Zotero well. If
Yes.
you learn how to use Zotero, learning Mandalay is no longer a problem.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, madam.
Alright, stay safe, guys. Stay safe and take care. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Thank you, madam.
wabarakatuh. Thank you,
Thank you
madam.
all. Bye bye.
Jazakallahu khair.
Yeah.
अरे खावा दावा रे आजादी इतने ना का कत धन्यवाद